$13.95. Adelaide's FiveAA. This is Peter Godfrey.
Eight minutes past 5 and temperature at the moment, hang on, I've got to refresh that page. It's vanished from me. What do we got? 7.7 degrees in the city at the moment. Let's take a look at what's happening over the other side of the ditch. We've been focusing on what's been happening this side of the ditch. Let's see how the other half lives. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz. How are you, Selwyn?
Not too bad, Peter. I've got the sun's up and everything, but I've still got the lights on.
You've got the lights on. Yours didn't go out.
It didn't go out.
Thank goodness for that.
Didn't have to singe the eyebrows with a candle through the darkness and all of that sort of thing. So all's fine and well in quick Kiwi land this morning, Peter.
Excellent. Maybe if we get a long extension cord and sort of toss it over to you guys, can you plug it in so we can fire up a few things here?
Yeah, we might do like when our power outage happened a few years ago now, but I think you guys sent over a ship with a few generators on it, and that was very, very well timed and well placed. But we can talk about that a little bit in depth about the New Zealand experience that went on for 5 weeks, Peter.
I know. We're upset about half a day, but yeah, we'll get onto that. But first, let's give it a quick roundup of some of your headlines over there.
Yeah, sure. So just on the currencies, that's often something that people kind of follow there. The Kiwi dollar is sitting at 72.7 US cents. Compared to the Aussie is 94.65. If you just compare the Aussie back the other way, if you're cashing in some Aussie dollars for New Zealand, you'll get around about $1.05 back, Peter, at the moment. So it was narrower a few weeks ago, like we mentioned, but there's a bit of the upward pressure on the Kiwi dollar has eased slightly, mainly because of the US stuff. But the getting back to the other headlines around the place, New Zealand Herald, it's not wanting to be outdone by you guys. The lead story on the Herald online is suburban blackout in Auckland at one of the more prestigious suburbs of Remuera. More than 2,400 homes without power, Peter. Earlier on, it was leading with the power outage that you guys were having in the SA, but it shifted that down and looked for its own crisis there. But also overseas news on the Herald, the Russian missiles shot down, that's the flight MH17. So that's relating to the Dutch inquiry investigation into that came out overnight as well. Big deal, obviously, for a lot of people there. And also concerns about some poachers on the rural farmland out there, particularly with deer that are being farmed. People going in, poaching them, basically shooting stags on a farm, which obviously isn't cool, is it? Not sport there. If you go across to Fairfax's stuff.co.nz website, New Zealand Herald was saying 2,400 homes without power. Fairfax is saying 800 homes lose power, so somewhere between the two might be the right figure, Peter.
Either way, we've beaten you on that.
You beat us on that. We can't compete on this power thing, really. But then it goes down to student loan interest recall. They're kind of saying that this is a call coming from the bosses of the tertiary institutions, the universities and polytechs, etc. They're saying if you start loading up the interest on the student loans again, that money could be channeled back to make it more affordable and have more seats to teach, more students on seats to teach. So that's basically starting to get another momentum. That may fall into the government's hands and be favourable to the government, perhaps as it moves into next year. It can put a big case there, because at the moment, if you are a student, you graduate, your student loan won't accrue any interest here in New Zealand if you remain in New Zealand working after your degree's finished. If you go overseas, they whack an interest rate on top of that. If you go across to Radio New Zealand, they're saying the same issue here, Peter. Return to interest rates on student loans, a draft report recommends. So just what I was talking about there. Transformer fire, that's Radio New Zealand is saying that's the cause of the Auckland blackout in the Remuera suburb, and it's saying around 2,000 Auckland homes. So it looks like Fairfax is way down on the number there. So those are the main ones, Peter.
All right. Let's hear about
weather's
your...
not too bad. If we looked at the weather here, it's not too bad. It's inclement, but not a storm like you guys.
Not like we've had. Well, tell us that. So somebody mentioned earlier you had a big power outage there. So 1998, what was it, sort of February, March, so summer, and Auckland, it was predominantly Auckland, was it? Just not the whole country, but Auckland, 5 weeks without power. So what happened there?
Yeah, look, 5 weeks, shows you how memory, when you look back, can change quite a lot, can't it? 5 weeks, I looked at this just now. I actually thought it went for months and months and months. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
it just never seemed to end. We lived on a main road at that time called Sandringham Road, which was around the Kingsland area. And, I should say what the purpose of the cause of the fault was. The main supplier lines to Auckland City were via Transpower and a substation just south of Auckland and Penrose industrial areas where the Transpower thing was, and then the lines go out into Auckland City from there, and Mercury Energy then was the predominant one for the central CBD, and apparently there were 4 110 kilovolt power cables from the national grid of that Transpower power station that fed in there. 2 of the cables connecting 2 of the major substations in Auckland City, they ended up going out, one big one, due to gas cooling or gas insulation, I should say, wrapped around the major cables. And it was particularly hot that particular summer here in New Zealand, and then on the 20th of January, boom, blew. So 2 of them ended up going out within days, and then it was reliant on 2 other feed lines going into the main city. Of course, they're under huge load. Another one goes bang in February, like what you were talking about. That was around February the 9th, apparently. And then after that, it was only a matter of another 10 days. The only one left, which was one of the ones that went down our road, unfortunately, goes bang. And so all the lights went out. It was like a surreal experience, like I think your listeners were saying earlier on, Peter. It sounded like some of them were saying, it was surreal.
When you're used to having lights around, street lights, whatever, and that suddenly everything's dark, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you navigate quite often by the neon lights, the traffic lights and things like that. Suddenly it looks like something quite different. So this is what it was like, back here in Auckland, through the early part of 1998. Got to say, the remedy to it was this big trench down our road. It's all where we lived before, all volcanic rock down there. So the progress would take like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of jackhammers right outside your door as it inched up the kilometres of the street, heading toward the CBD, and those jackhammers pounding day and night because the national interest required, it was just a nightmare. The only good thing, but I shouldn't harp on about personnel things here, I remember that the guys they had great big bits of plywood, and I needed a new fence at the back of the property, and when they'd moved on, they said, if you want the plywood, you can have it. So it's great. Got a guy who's a very well-known photographer now, a guy called Matt Baker. He helped me lug it out the back. We cut it into the right height and slapped some nice green paint on it. We had a brand new fence down the back. So there you go. I think the neighbours thought the gangs had moved in by the look of the, But so there was benefits to it. But the big thing was, Peter, that, it was amazing how when it went for quite a while, obviously the crisis, that some businesses had to move out of the CBD area in particular. Obviously there was no trade happening in the first instance.
Yeah.
But after about a week, like I was mentioning before, other countries like yourselves in particular started sending generators over left, right and centre, and a cloud of diesel smoke just hovered over Auckland City, as the diesel generators would chug away day and night.
Yeah.
But it got commerce going, it got the economy going, got people back having a sense of safety, in the streets in the city again, and also, just brought life back until such time as the cause had been rectified and the remedy was plugged back in.
So was it predominantly just the Auckland CBD, or how far beyond the CBD did the outage extend to? Yeah,
there was a number of, quite a number of blocks, about 20 city blocks that went out. But those were the central city suburbs that were most affected. Yeah. The outer ones, Auckland's a bit like you guys, it spreads out quite a way.
Yeah.
Like a mini Sydney too, it just keeps going to suburbs, and the outer suburbs were okay. Those ones that were south of Penrose, for example, just weren't affected at all. And there's quite a population out that way, about 500,000 people out that way. So they were all fine. But the central city area, certainly CBD, the commerce, the industry that's, laying around that kind of area, and then, the suburbs around there certainly were affected, and also Auckland Hospital, they go on to generators and all of that kind of thing. Internet kind of things were in their infancy there, but they went out for quite a while as well in the first instance, and so obviously, the backup plans and things like that were in their rudimentary stages in those days. But they're much more sophisticated in this day and age. But fantastic too, the difference. You can see the causes of this was basically totally man-made. The maintenance of the power lines that were feeding Auckland City hadn't been looked after for a long time. So in some ways, we deserved to be given a wake-up call on that with you guys. It's a climate issue, isn't it?
Storms and so on. But then, as you were saying, sort of one went down, and then, as the load increases on the other lines, it sort of, causes that one to go, and which is sort of, what happened here with the towers coming down, and resulting in a bigger draw of power from interstate through the interconnector, and that then tripped that because it was exceeding its capacity. So, I guess that end result in a way similar, but different origin of the problem.
One of the glass half full elements of this too, that what we experienced was there's always a fear that if power goes out and things like that there would be a surge of people seeking to exploit that, perhaps looting, robbing people, the violence going up. And generally it was found that it didn't. The community spirit came through. And I haven't followed your guys' news that specifically, but has that been the same there?
No, well, actually there was, I think, the police earlier in the night, and hopefully it hasn't, happened overnight, but earlier in the night, I think police did make comment that, no, there hadn't been, that hadn't become an issue.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and they also commented that, given that this all happened just before peak hour and, the roads congested with no traffic lights, that by and large everyone was, pretty patient, and there was, other than some sort of minor bingles at intersections without lights, there was no major road issues, no major road crashes. So, it seemed a similar thing, that everything did go smoothly. And
the elderly, Peter, they were quite safe and sound in their homes and units.
Seems that way. No reports on anything like that as yet. Let's hope that is the case.
Yeah, fantastic. It is. In some ways, it's actually kind of a demonstration of how our communities can actually adjust very quickly and work for each other in times of need.
Yeah.
And radio, and that's what always stands out in a crisis, isn't it?
In a sense, it's right there.
It's right there and accessible generally. So
exactly. All right, so we'll just take a quick break and be back with you, and we'll find out a few more things happening in your part of the world. Won't be a moment. Selwyn Manning with us. He's editor of EveningReport.nz.
Blood cancer claims more lives than breast cancer and melanoma. It affects a person's entire life in unimaginable ways. You can bring a little light into the lives of people with blood cancer by supporting a Leukemia Foundation Light the Night Walk this year. Raise funds in advance, then walk with family and friends as you shine your own special lantern. Gold to remember a loved one, white for your own blood cancer journey, or blue to support others. Find a walk today at lightthenight.org.au.
The wait is over. Nordic Honda invites you to preview the exciting new Honda NSX at Adelaide's only premier Honda NSX dealer. The NSX represents the ultimate combination in power, sportiness and efficiency. The NSX puts the driver first in every aspect of its design. So experience this exciting new NSX up close. Exclusive to Nordic Honda, Adelaide's only premier Honda NSX dealer at Nordic Honda, top of Glen Osmond Road. Nordic Honda. Nordic Honda.
Want to get your garden looking its best? Look for Brunnings garden products, because with 160 years of history, no one beats Brunnings for value.
Especially when it comes to a greener lawn. Just toss on some Brunnings Green Up and it'll green up any lawn in 7 to 10 days.
Brunnings Green Up, part of the Brunnings lawn care range. At all good garden centres and hardware stores. Brunnings garden products, proudly South Australian owned.
How'd your mum go at Rest Haven?
Oh, she loved it.
Fantastic.
I'm so relieved. Rest Haven made it so easy. We went on a tour and she met the Rest Haven team. They even helped with her My Aged Care referral. I'm really pleased she's made the move. It's been a month now and she loves it.
Is that why you're looking relaxed?
Yes. I call it the Rest Haven effect.
Give your loved ones the care they deserve. Go to resthaven.asn.au.
Do up your home inside and out. There's great ideas, expert advice and hundreds of suppliers selling the latest indoor and outdoor products. It's all at the Home Show, Adelaide Showground, October 7 to 9. kjex.com.au.
Break your footy finals fever at Chemist Warehouse. Save with big brand vitamins at half price. Like Nature's Own Odorless Fish Oil 2,000mg 200 caps, $17.97. And Sonova's Sugarless Sea 500mg 300 chewable tabs, $8.47. Break your footy finals fever at Chemist Warehouse with big brand vitamins at half price. Always read the label, use only as directed. If symptoms persist, see your healthcare professional. Chemist Warehouse, lowest prices guaranteed.
My success is proving all the doubters wrong. What's yours? Protect your business success with Vero Insurance. To learn more, go to vero.com.au/success or talk to a broker today. Insurer is Vero Insurance.
Peter Godfrey on 1395, Adelaide's FiveAA.
It is 23 minutes past 5. Get it right, Peter. Selwyn Manning is with us from New Zealand, editor of EveningReport.nz. Now, Selwyn, you've got your mayoral elections, is it, coming up fairly soon, local government campaigns, and a bit of fire happening in a bit of a get-together for some of them.
Yeah,
Tell us
it's
more.
not the postal votes that have been set alight, Peter. It's the actual candidates pushing and shoving. So it's the last week of the postal vote here in Auckland, Peter, and in the whole country, I should say. And a lot of the focus obviously has been on Auckland, particularly on those of us that live up here. So it's a shocker, isn't it? But in Auckland, the expectation, I suppose, is fair to say the polls are kind of trending toward a win coming through, and let's wait to see if that's the case. But it looks like the former Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Clark Labor government, and he was also Minister of Trade for a long time. He was also Minister of Justice, also Minister of Defence, and way back in the David Longy period, he was Minister of Housing as well. And we're talking about Phil Goff, who's been around a long time, and he still looks reasonably young. Now, he's been campaigning for the Auckland mayoralty. He will exit New Zealand national politics should he win. And the other person that is a strong candidate as well is National's preferred candidate, and that's a woman called Vic Crohn. She comes from a corporate CEO kind of background, and, she's nipping at Phil Goff's heels there. But, Peter, the interesting stuff has been happening, and as is often the case with Kiwi politics, there's a touch of bizarre about it, and especially this week with some of the more lower polling candidates for the mayoralty. They gathered for a debate on policy, supposedly, at Auckland University's Student Association bar. That's a notorious bar called Shadows, Peter. So it gives you an idea of the ambience, perhaps, of the place.
Yeah.
It's renowned for giving, new bands and things like that a really good run there. But that aside, the lower polling candidates all gathered there. One candidate objected very seriously to the presence of another candidate who had just pulled out of the race and had endorsed Phil Goff as where his vote is, if he was going to get any, should put their vote. Right, so there was a big kind of argument that went on that ended up a pushing and shoving match between one candidate and this other. But the fantastic thing was that it took the persuasive talents of this 23-year-old candidate, and she is a young woman, obviously, called Chloe Swabrick. Now, it's Chloe Swabrick. She intervened in this, kept the cool head. She talked these people down that were of an age where they should know better, the culprits. And she said later that she wasn't worried about her own safety or her own security, mainly because she's quite an achiever in martial arts, Peter.
I wonder if those that were doing the pushing and shoving were quite aware of that. Maybe they wouldn't have done the pushing and shoving if they were aware.
or maybe they didn't start pushing and shoving her because they did know it or something. But, she went in there and she basically stood between them and eyeballed them down, or as your former Prime Minister Tony Abbott would say, shirt-fronted them. Shirt-fronted them, and just put water on the fuse, if you like. Yeah. So there you go.
Well
fantastic campaigning by her.
Yep.
Showing that she can sort such stoushes out, Peter.
Fantastic. Well, maybe she should be the one that should be top of the contenders list.
Well, I tell you, for those that are voting perhaps from the age of 25 down to 18, if it was just, the outcome was on that age group that day were the ones that would change it here, Chloe Swabrick, she would win.
She would be up there,
She is hugely supported by that, but not just in that age demographic. There are a lot of others, particularly those that follow social media where perhaps, in sync with her age demographic there, she is the master of getting her message out and really polished performer. People have been saying to myself and others for some time, you watch that woman, you remember her name, because she's going to end up being a formidable force in this country. Your choice of life course obviously is hugely, contested which way you'll go, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at 23, apparently she is showing all the signs of being perhaps another Helen Clark type thing to the New Zealand political landscape, and that you've got to say that woman certainly shook the place up during her time.
Yeah, indeed. So keep an eye out for
Chloe Swarbrick.
Swarbrick.
In the future, when we're knitting and sitting there and trying to keep warm because the power's out or something like that, with our crocheted blankets over our knees, we'll be thinking, well, hopefully the Prime Minister, Chloe Swarbrick, will come and help us out. So,
you could be right by the sound of it. Hey, just quickly, just got an email from Rob. He says, interesting to hear your New Zealand commentator say he lived in Sandringham in Auckland. I lived there in 1974. Remember the electric buses? I won tickets to go see Uri Geller bend some spoons through one of the newspapers, and I worked as an etcher in a factory nearby.
Well, there you go. Sandringham's a very vibrant community. Nowadays, since the 70s, there's a huge Middle Eastern community wrapped around the Sandringham Road shops, if you're still listening. That's something else. If you want kind of food down there, you go down the Sandringham Road, Course Eden Park's on Sandringham Road. That's notoriously well known, and also Gribblehurst Parkhead. Remember that, Peter? Fantastic park, still got its gardens around, and it's still played small-time rugby played there on Saturday mornings.
So, there we go. Well, there you go, Rob. That's what's happened since you lived there in 1974. Many thanks for joining us this morning, Selwyn. Have yourself a great week. Enjoy having electricity, and we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully, we got power then too.
And take care out there, Peter.
Indeed. Thanks, Selwyn. Selwyn Manning in New Zealand. Selwyn's editor of EveningReport.nz. Head there to find out some more about what's happening for the Kiwis. Right on 5:30. Back after the news.
This is Adelaide's FiveAA.
Windy with showers and 13 today. It's 5:30. I'm Anne Stone. Questions are being raised about how all of South Australia was left in the dark after being knocked off the power grid in yesterday's severe storm. The winds ripped at least 22 transmission towers from the ground across the mid-north, with about 80,000 lightning strikes hitting the state, some damaging generation facilities. And that caused automatic emergency systems to cut the power. While the electricity has been restored to most of the Adelaide metro area, a large section of the state remains without power. And Matthew Bass from the Weather Bureau says there's more on the way today, with a heavy rain and strong winds set to lash the state for a second day.
Most of the weather yesterday was more unstable and more related to thunderstorms ahead of the actual low pressure centre. Now today, as we have the low pressure centre moving past Adelaide, what we'll see is quite a showery morning, but then during the later morning and afternoon showers will ease back.
And Senior Constable Kylie Simpson is appealing for people heading out this morning to take care.
And obviously there's a lot of rain, debris